folks. They know they brought the country down, and they're really getting ready to clamp down and stop us bringing them to justice. Basically, a bunch of Bernie Madoff, Ken Lays run the country. I mean, what would you do if you'd done all the stuff they've done? And they're taking houses on waterfronts that have been there 80 years. They're taking homes they don't own. Bank of America's taking houses they never had a deed to that are paid for. And it's like, look, we got cops with weapons. I mean, that's what tyranny is. But even few third world countries are this bad. I mean, this is crooks. But all over the country, cops take old ladies' money out of their purse. I mean, why not? It's just pure evil. God, this country's gone. The effort by the Department of Homeland Security and the TSA to expand their operations from airports to state roads and beyond is being accepted by state and local governments around the country, according to allgov.com, a website covering government activity. Allgov reports today that other states are, quote, expecting to follow and accept Viper-visible intermodal prevention and response at their transportation hubs. That means highways, bus stations, train stations. Following recent operations in Tennessee, they've had them for about 5 years all over the country. They've had Marines at these with firearms. I've had U.S. Army run up to me, screaming at me. I just said, go ahead, do whatever you're going to do, punk. And they're like, don't videotape me in the middle of New York. The unconstitutional operations were not in response to any particular threat, but rather, you always got to like that, designed to act as visible deterrence and detection security presence across Tennessee, as if terrorists that they've given Libya are going to care about this. They're going to look for these people to go after them. It doesn't exist. It's all staged. In other words, the operation was an effort to acclimate Tennesseans to militarized TSA units at checkpoints around the state. And then it just goes on to break that down. So Kurt Nemo's article is so important. Okay, you were getting into a fracas there as we were going up into the break, and I was interrupting you. Max Keiser, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. We were discussing the merits or lack thereof of renouncing the U.S. citizenships. And, I really believe this is heading toward the incinerators. There's going to be the final solution for poverty with 50 million people on food stamps. You got more than 120 million Americans now at or below the poverty line. That's a lot of bodies to feed. J.P. Morgan can only print up so many food stamps. So you're going to start incinerating people. And, of course, after they scapegoat these people, the poor people, they'll say that they're evil, they're terrorists, they love getting grown up by the TSA, and they're going to incinerate them. It's that simple. It's happened before. The same people who were in charge then are in charge now. And they know that it worked then, and it'll work now in America. And
they're like, oh, we did build the Emergency Centers Act. We're trying to get more funding for it. And Ventura in the interview is like, well, why are there kids inside there? And he goes, they're happy children. And
IBM was instrumental in the concentration camps of Germany. J.P. Morgan funded the Nazi rise to power. Coca-Cola created an orange-flavored drink for the Nazis called Fanta. That was Coca-Cola's orange Nazi drink at the time. So American companies are well-versed in incineration, well-versed in mass execution and pogroms. And when they can't feed any more of these poor people in America, they're going to burn them. And that's as simple as that. It worked before, it'll work again. If you don't want to get burned to death, leave.
But you're saying, and I've read it, the same stuff's happening in Europe. The same global banksters run it all.
Yeah, Europe's in bad shape. But I believe countries like Brazil are probably interesting to look at, Chile. But you definitely want to get out of the worst offenders, and that would be the U.S. and the U.K. These two countries have Nazi envy. They go sit down every night and worship their Nazi gods. And when they start burning people in these incinerators, it'll be a total satisfaction for them. So I don't feel like I'd like to get burned in an incinerator for J.P. Morgan's bonus pool. That's not what I'd like to do. I'm trying to stay as far away as I possibly can. I was in New York for the first time in 15 years a few months ago, and that was about as much time as I'd like to spend over there. It's just too dangerous. If you love your family, you should protect them. And that probably means getting the heck out of Dodge.
Well, they are setting up checkpoints. And I remember going to urban warfare drills right when they were getting rid of Glass-Steagall and gearing up for this and watching Marines training to take our guns and then watching them train to take U.S. citizens, put them on their knees and shoot them in the back of the head. It's all in Police State 2000. And people saw that and were so freaked out they accused me of having fake aircraft carriers land and hiring thousands of troops. And People just couldn't believe it was real. But the good news is, though, the military is woken up. The problem is they pick the crazies and the ones that want to pull triggers on Americans. They psychologically test them and make them cops. And it's weird. I mean, it's like somebody in make-believe. Like one of my kids dresses up like a Superman or something and is running around jumping off the furniture. I see these feds and cops now, and they're like running around like they're in a movie, strutting and staring and bugging their eyes out at everyone. And it's like, hey, lunatic, you work for the people that bring the drugs in and stage 9/11. You work for the terrorist. I mean, I can't have punk, coward scum looking at me like I'm bad all day when they work for the murdering criminals, and I know it. Murdering scum, murdering filth, murdering trash, terrorist killers of 9/11, setting up checkpoints everywhere. I indict you. I indict you. And if you're not evil and you're a cop, then speak out against it, like the police that have sent us the internal stuff where they say the Homeland Security thing is for veterans, gun owners, libertarians, conservatives in the fetters. Of course it is. Of course it is. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Max.
No, it's going to be very difficult to leave the United States, especially when everyone has a lien on them, when the debts are formally transferred. Every American has a $300,000 debt hanging over their head, and they will formalize that relationship legally in the courts so that you are personally responsible, and you will not be able to leave that country until you do something about that $300,000.
By the way, they're already starting the capital controls. Now, if you even have a couple silver coins, they pull you over, scream at you. If you're a Ron Paul supporter, they flip out. I mean, these are the new federal Gestapo.
They're just beginning the process of penning you in. So less than 10% of Americans even have a passport. So if you're listening and you don't have even a passport, get yourself a passport. So at least you can get on a plane and leave if you have to or need to. And then from there are things you should do, like get a second passport, like Governor Jesse Ventura is talking about dual citizenship. At least he has some protection there with 2 passports. Everybody can do that if you put the work into it. If you value your family and you value your life, you need to have an exit strategy before they start turning the ovens on and marching people into the incinerator because they can't afford to keep the food stamps going anymore.
But I guess they just psychologically test these guys, because I see feds now, and they literally are like a joke. They're bugging their eyes out, strutting around in black uniforms, trying to intimidate you, and I just instantly am like, as a man, like, this is a criminal. This is a threat. I mean, I'm immediately, my instinct's like, criminal. I mean, you know, I mean, it's like a dog when it knows somebody's bad. It's like, who are, but they actually think they're good guys. It's real weird. They think that they're Jack Bauer and your wife is the terrorist.
Look, as you know, every study going back many years shows that if you give people just a little bit of authority, they tend to run with it and become megalomaniacs very quickly. And this is what happens when you give people who are not adequately trained a gun and a little bit of authority. Now they're suddenly think that they are all-powerful, all-knowing megalomaniacs, and the obvious results are in place. So this is not the way to build an economy. It's not the way to secure a nation. It's not the way to build goodwill, and it's not the way to compete. Nobody wins except the contractors and the mercenaries who finance the Gestapo in America. And this is playing out in real time, and nobody can doubt it at this point. So, again, if you value your life, you need to figure out an exit strategy.
Yeah, well, I'm going to stay with my wife and children, and I'm going down with it. And I'll be here warning people to the last minute. And this is not Nazi Germany. This is not Russia. And these people will be...
the Jews said the same thing, Alex, all the way to the end. They all were convinced that it couldn't get any worse and that somebody would save the day, and it didn't work, and 6 million were burned and slaughtered and killed, and gypsies and Jews and homosexuals. Now in America, we got about 30 or 40 million people on the chopping block. They got to go. We can't feed them anymore. We don't have the money. Too much debt. And we need the final solution, so they're going to get rid of them. And the same people in charge then are in charge now. If you value your family, you need to get out.
You know, they're actually going to go after the middle class and rob everybody. That's actually what the Nazis did.
Well, that's the beginning, though. First, these middle-class people are in the new poverty. They were middle class last year. Now they're the poverty-stricken. And then they'll be called, you know, they'll scapegoat them. Like, they're the terrorists. You're the terrorist. You know, they get the propaganda machine running, and then they get the people who are not yet being marched into the incineration camp to hate them. Hate. And, of course, it'll all be for the greater good.
But, I mean, it's such a joke when you pull up to a checkpoint in the middle of the country and there's troops and cops and TSA potbellies directing them, and they're bugging their eyes out at you, and state police have got drill sergeant hats on with their eyes all slit, looking at you like they're gunslingers, and you're there with your kids, and they march over and order you around, and I can't take it anymore. I'm like, no, you're drug dealers. The government's criminal. I don't care anymore. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it. I can't take it. I can't take them anymore. They're terrorists. They're murderers. They're drug traffickers. They're scum. They're Nazi, commie, absolute filth, and I see them, and I'm calling them out.
That's what I'm saying. Now, I predict this, that with a very short period of time, you're going to find people tagged with the GPS monitor, which will be the equivalent of the Star of David. Remember, in Nazi Germany, they had to wear the yellow Star of David.
They've already tagged your cell phone, your name, your face scan.
That's right. So isn't that the exact same thing as being tagged by Nazi Germany with the yellow Star of David? They have tagged you on your GPS monitor as undesirable. That's another major step toward marching people into the incinerator.
Listen, I was flying out of Austin a few weeks ago, and I thought it was a joke. A gray-haired TSA guy goes, one guy goes, hey, Alex, like your show. And I'm going, okay. And the other guy goes, this guy's a troublemaker, and tried to intimidate me. And it was like a little kid, but they're acting tough. This guy's a troublemaker. And he did this look at me. You could tell the guy was just a sack of weak garbage. And I thought it was a joke, and I was like, huh? And he was like, yeah, where you going? And I was just like, you are a sack of trash. You are a cowardly worm. You must have a hellish life. You can't get a woman, I guarantee it. You're a loser. And you'll always be a loser no matter what anybody says. You were born a loser, and you are a loser, and you're an American filth. And we're going to take this country back, and you're going to be brought to justice along with your banker bosses.
Well, you know, the victims, again, of Nazis were citizens of Germany. They were full-fledged citizens with a huge long-term history of adding to society, of fighting in the wars, being part of the community. But suddenly, because the powers that be needed a bunch of money to fund their overseas military adventures, it wasn't Afghanistan or Iraq or Bahrain or another, it was Poland and France and other at the time, and they needed that money, so they said, you know, we're going to seize all your money, we're going to put you a little star on your arm, around your arm, and when we can't feed you anymore and get the slave labor from you, we can't feed our prisons anymore, we're going to incinerate you. Now, that's the exact progression we're going to see in the U.S.
By the way, they admit Homeland Security has actually ordered giant body incinerators. That's been in the news. It was in the for a
weenie roast? What, they're going to cook their weenies out there and have a marshmallow roast?
No, I'm not joking. It was in the Rocky Mountain News before it closed down. It was about 8-9 years ago that Homeland Security, they said, for doing bio attacks, has ordered a bunch of big industrial incinerators.
Look, there's too many people on food stamps in America. So 50 million. J.P. Morgan runs the program. They fund it through deficit spending. But as you know, J.P. Morgan's balance sheet's about to blow up. And the same thing with Goldman Sachs is about to blow up. This company, MF Global, that was run by an ex-Goldman Sachs guy, John Corzine, he leveraged the company up 50-1, blew it up.
Yeah, but America's waking up. Europe's waking up. Berlusconi had to resign. I don't see them getting away with all of this. I think we should have faith here and stare them down.
Who's going to prison? Who's going to prison? Not nobody. Bernie Madoff, you know, he went to prison. But other than that, unlike the 1980s, over 1,500 bankers went to prison thanks to William Black's investigation, putting those bankers behind bars. This time, the situation's 60 times worse. And so far, we've had maybe one guy go to prison, Bernie Madoff. That's it. There's no FBI staffing doing this. When they were pursuing the S&L crisis, they had over 2,000 FBI agents. Here, they've got less than 20 FBI agents, something on the order of that scale. They're not even going after these guys. There's no retribution for these guys. They are laughing. You know, the traders in Chicago stick their head out the window at the Occupy Chicago movement. They throw applications to McDonald's down on their protests, not signaling that the CME and the Chicago Board of Exchange were caught last week red-handed defrauding customers, commingling accounts, manipulating markets, stealing egregiously from the system and from all their accounts. And these are the people that are telling the Occupy Wall Street movement on the street to go get a job. These people are committing massive fraud every single day. You've got.
I know, and now they're announcing they're going to crack down. I want to.
He's a major fraudster, Gary Gensler at the CFTC. This SEC is caught and basically engaged in massive fraud every single day.
What about the announcement today? Let me stop you for a minute. It's coming out here in Reuters. Bank of America preparing for Chapter 11, and they say it looks like they may be preparing for it, and they've moved that $79 trillion in derivatives over to the FDIC. So I guess we're going to have to pay for that, but that's not welfare.
$79 trillion. That's right. That's $79 trillion in debt that's moved from the investment bank Merrill Lynch that took these outrageous bets.